Right, I just have a couple more videos, probably two. This in addition to one more to be completed today. After which I will keep my promise, as I said, even though I've been debating with myself about it, regarding sharing the message from the Quran. Well, sharing my notes from the book, right? Sharing my notes from the Quran, right? Meaning the message, extracting the message and sharing it to you in at least another way, right? Because like I said, I have been in essence sharing the knowledge already, and in fact by today I would have completed sharing the essence of the Quran, right? But like I mentioned, we would go through the book, right? Through the book itself, and just touch on or go through certain things in the book from Surah 1 to 114, right? So to just reinforce the message, right? So that should take about about 3 months, less than 3 months or so, right? So that's what the plan is, right? So we're talking about certain things that I found in the book that I find to be a little bit unjust, right? And we're talking about the concept of not entering abandoned houses, right? Not entering abandoned houses and so on. Right, reason why I find this to be a little bit unjust is that people often leave their properties, like people who inherit large amount of wealth and stuff, leave their properties. For example, if you're living in the Caribbean or anywhere abroad and you prefer to live somewhere else, you may have like a large amount of properties that you may just leave. And how much does it take for you to just live and be comfortable? You just actually need to be where you are at the time, right? You just actually need to be, if you settle in a certain permanent residence, you just need to be there. And if you're traveling, you just need to be at wherever it is you're traveling to. You only are required to be where you are at the time that you are there, right? You are only required to be where you are at the time when you are there, right? So this is why I don't understand this concept about not entering abandoned properties, meaning that there are certain places, a lot of properties and a lot of land, right, across the world, right, that is unoccupied, perhaps that's unoccupied and could be occupied, right, and could be occupied by people who actually need it, right, or could be occupied by people who actually want a change, want a difference, right, want a different space, a different location, or need a different space, a different location. So this was connecting with people and networking and whatever comes in, and this shouldn't just happen. This networking happens a lot on in the upper class in society, right? So what we are aiming for is a networking between the classes, right? Networking between the classes is what we are aiming for, is at least what I am aiming for, right? Whoever is on board with this or watching this video, hearing me speaking right now, networking amongst classes, right? Not only networking amongst, for example, a Masonic group, or for example, an upper class elite society, or a business commerce society, or whatever aspect of society that is in the upper lawyers and so on, judges, not only in the upper classes of society, governments, upper class in governments and so on upper class and those forces behind government and so on. We are talking about networking amongst the classes from the highest to the very, very lowest rung in society, right? Networking amongst these, so we can ensure, right, that people who are war-torn, or people who are even not war-torn, but people who are in poverty-stricken areas across the globe, right, could have access to adequate resources, right? So not entering abandoned houses, right, we could really allow people to furnish, fabricate, do whatever they need to with whatever properties that are being unoccupied, right? That's being unoccupied, left there, right? Vines, trees growing up upon properties and nothing is happening with it, right? Why should this be a statement still, or a verse still, right? So I don't understand why these things, people are saying, oh, you shouldn't change these things anymore. These things are what is contributing to the actual injustice, real world injustice in the world, right? And these things are actually the cause of the wars that has taken place, right? So if we change these things in the scriptures, it would be easier. It would be, the injustice would ease in society, and we would have a more better, a free flow in society, and these wars would not have to happen, right? So we are aiming towards that type of society where we can be free to exist. We can be free to exist on Earth without having the hassle, because the space is already there, right? Without having the hassle of all the tralala that comes along with life itself, right? Because enough work has been done throughout history, right? A lot of work has been done by our forefathers and so on to ensure that there is adequate space, right? There is room on Earth, right? There's always room on Earth. Like I said, that's why I never agreed with that depopulation agenda. And if I was pulled in to be part of that, well, that's something that I have to apologize for in my unconscious or subconscious, because I've never agreed with any depopulation agenda throughout my life. I've always held or maintained that Earth is a free space, and there's enough food for everybody, there's enough water for everybody, right? And there's enough basic necessities for everybody on Earth, right? So that's what we are aiming towards, right? So that's one, and well, later I'll just do one more video on something that I largely disagree with, and it has to do with the wars that's taking place right now, and hopefully it could contribute to easing this bullshit that's been happening generation after generation, religious wars with no real reason behind it, right? So we will adjust any topic in the conversation later, right? Take care, everybody.